Good day. This will be your blended learning course orientation. I am Mrs. Ray Jane Calicdan del Campo. I will be your supervising teacher for your section in this blended learning course. So let's get started with our orientation. Our orientation for today will have three agenda. The first agenda will be covering the overview of the blended learning course. So you might wonder what is a blended learning course. So we will tackle that a little later. And our second agenda will be setting the expectations between students and the teacher. So we will discuss what are the duties and responsibilities of the TAs and the students. Our last agenda for this orientation will include other matters such as late submissions, what are our policies for that, the TA and subsection assignment, course outline, and of course, student support. Now, let's begin with the first agenda. In FEU, I'm sure you are very much familiar that the courses and the subjects are classified into various categories. There is what we call as the professional courses, or most of the students know it and call it as major courses. And if there are major, you students have also this term which we call as minor subjects. Well, to put it correctly, we do not call them minor subjects, but we call them as general education subjects. Under the general education, we have subcategories. There are three subcategories for general education courses. The first one is the regular classes, and then we have the second one, which is the skills-based classes, and the third will be the blended learning courses. So blended learning courses will be the focus of our orientation since your subject in your section is classified as a blended learning course. Now, let's begin by asking these questions. What courses are under the BLC program? Second, what is the design of the BLC program classes? Moving on with the next slide, there are 5 general education blended learning courses. Allow me to read and please follow with your eyes. First one, we have the GED 104, or also called as Science, Technology, and Society. Second, we have GED 110, Understanding the Self. The third blended learning course is GED 113, The Filipino in the Contemporary World. And then the fourth is GED 114, Applied Ethics. And the last is GED 115, which is Pag-aaral ng Wika at Kulturang Regional. So these are the 5 blended learning courses in FEU. Now, for the next point to discuss is the design of blended learning courses. So blended learning courses are unique and courses that are designed in a different manner. Allow me to read, follow with your eyes. Blended learning classes have students engage 50% of class time in synchronous discussions and 50% through which is watching PILs, or which we call as public intellectual lecture series, and working on Canvas materials and assessment. So in a 1 week session, or 1 week, there are 2 sessions. So with the first session, you will have class engagement with your subsections and your TA. And then the other day in the week, or the other session in the week, will be allotted for you to work independently and manage your pills, watch the pills and the materials that we have for the course. Second, you will meet only once a week with your TA. You will meet a facilitator, which is your teaching assistant, or also known as a TA, to further discuss the lesson presented on pills. And lastly, class size in BLC classes are ranging from 20 to 25 students in a class to have a more engaging and participatory discourse. This is one of the vital essence in having blended learning classes. for students to have more opportunity to express themselves and participate in the discourse of the topic at hand. To further detail what is a blended learning course, we now discuss the instructional design. In blended learning classes, we have 80 is to 20 student population. Now, what do we mean by this? The 80, which is the large class, is for self-paced and online learning. That is the use of pills and other Canvas materials. While in your subsection in 20 or the small classes, it will be handled by a teaching assistant. Now, in this subsection in small classes, this is where you engage with your classmates and with your class discussion as facilitated by your teaching assistant. The BLC is different from skills-based classes which comprise 20 student population, and of course it's also different from regular GE classes which comprises 40 student population. In addition, when it comes to instructional design, allow me to emphasize, which I have mentioned earlier, about the notion of major and minor subjects. There's no such thing as minor courses. Instead, we have GE courses and professional courses. Both should be treated as equal because both are included in the computation of your quality point grade. And as you all know, quality point grades are one of the considerations before you'll be promoted to the next year. If you do not meet the expected quality point average that you need to meet before you'll be promoted, there's a probability that you'll be considered as PINRA or program non-readmission. You will no longer be qualified in your course, or worst case scenario, you might be part or you might be considered as UNRA, which is University Non-Readmission. In such case, you will be removed from FEU, and we do not want those cases to happen. So, as much as possible, you try to give effort, grit, and passion with your professional and GE subjects. Now, speaking of interaction in classes, we have what we call as learning modalities, and I believe upon enrollment you have chosen whether you will take mixed online learning or independent study. To further help you in finalizing your decision about your learning modalities, in mixed online learning, synchronous online classes and asynchronous activities are done. Same goes with independent study. There's also consultation period with mixed online learning and independent study. The difference is that in most cases, MOL students are capable in getting immediate response, while in independent study, most of the time, students are assumed to have limited internet connectivity. That's why they are encouraged to consult frequently, and we are assuming they will consult in an asynchronous manner. Same goes with submissions. Whether you chose mixed online learning or independent study, the submission date will be the same. And of course, the tasks are mandatory whether it's synchronous or asynchronous. Though there is more room and flexibility on the end of those IS, independent study, due to the limited internet connectivity. Now, to help you further decide and delineate the difference between the two learning modalities, in mixed online learning, if you're going to weigh the pros and cons, one of the pros of MOL is that you have the chance to interact with your classmates and with your teacher. Hence, there is more class involvement. And apart from that, of course, you will have an opportunity to get immediate feedback and response regarding the concerns that you have in the course. On the other hand, one of the cons of mixed online learning is that you have to have good internet access, or you have to have bigger or better internet access. As compared to independent studying, in IS, independent study, one of the pros of independent study is that you have more flexibility in terms of time, since you are not, and since we are assuming you do not have the capacity to attend synchronous sessions which mostly last an hour or so. Hence, you have more time at your disposal. That's one of the pros of independent study. Now, one of the cons of independent study is that since you are not engaging with your teachers, the immediate response in asynchronous is not that guaranteed. And of course, if you're the type of learner who learns better if there is socialization, if you are involved in class discussion, I guess independent study is not the learning modality for you. So in finalizing your learning modality, you have to consider 2 points. One of which is, the first factor is of course your internet connection, your resource, which is internet. Second factor is you have to consider your learning capabilities as well. You have to consider what type of learning works better for you. So I hope this discussion helps you in finalizing and getting a good grip when it comes to the difference between the two learning modalities. So at this point, do you have questions, clarifications? If you have questions, please raise your hand or type your questions in the chat box. If none, we will proceed with the second agenda of our discussion. For our second agenda in this session, we will be tackling the role of the teacher and the students. So, to shed further light with the terms that I have been mentioning, which is the TA and then the ST. So, to clarify, we have what we call as the teaching assistants, and of course, we have the supervising teachers. I am your supervising teacher, and later on, you will be introduced, you will be endorsed to your teaching assistants. Now, what is the role of teaching assistants? Together with the supervising teacher and the head teacher, they take into consideration, or they are the ones who does the instructional design. During the mid-year, before the start of the semester, we were recalibrating and redesigning the course to make it better and to suit the learning modalities that we are offering for the semester and for the school year. Apart from that, the teaching assistants are also your course facilitator. They will be the one that you will be meeting during your subsection class engagements. The teaching assistants are your course assessor, meaning they are the ones who will check your submissions in Canvas. And more importantly, they will be your mentor in line with the subject that we are discussing. So to put it simply, allow me to provide an analogy. In the medical field, if you are vying to be a doctor, before you become a permanent doctor in a certain hospital, there is what we call as internship and residency. So you're a fresh grad, you just passed the board exam, medical board exam, and you are in a probationary, you are being trained to be part of the medical institution. So the residents and then the interns are training under the supervision of the permanent doctor. So it's somehow similar with the idea of having teaching assistants and having supervising teachers. As a student, you also have a responsibility, and these responsibilities are as follows, but are not limited with this list. First, you have to engage in reading books, reviews, journal articles, essays, and case studies, and other materials in various forms. Apart from that, you also have to participate in different types of online learning activities and assessment, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous. Lastly, the third responsibility emphasized in this orientation is that you have to maximize the use of public intellectual learning series. So these are some of the responsibilities that I know you have heard numerous times from various teachers, but it doesn't hurt to emphasize them so that we are all on the same page. Moving forward, let's now elaborate what are the assessment policies and grading system. So in FEU, allow me to read and follow with your eyes. Assessment is a joint process that involves both the teacher and the learners. And we are committed that it will be fair, transparent, and it's based on standards set by FEU community and as benchmark by other top universities and with other top universities, may it be local and international, quality assurance organizations, and various government agencies. Now, allow me to emphasize three words here. It's fair, transparent, and based on standards. Your assessments are calibrated and further recalibrated upon the improvement of the course. And all assessments are to be checked using rubrics. Hence, these are the standards that we are pertaining to. And so, to further promote fairness in terms of teaching and assessing and even evaluating your performance in this subject. And it's also transparent in a way that after the TA have assessed and evaluated your performance through assessments, you will immediately see the grades through Canvas Speed Grader. There is a grade portion, there's a grade part in Canvas, and you will see the grading and how you are graded in Canvas. Speaking of assessments, in general education BLC classes, we have also summative and formative assessments. So formative assessments may be graded or ungraded, but since we are an online academic setup, most of the formative assessments are graded. They are designed in a way to form your skills, to hone you better with the topic at hand. On the other hand, summative assessments are evaluative and periodic assessments that we do for 2 periods. One is for midterm and the other is for finals. So later on, you will find out what are the formative assessments and summative assessments that is prepared for this course, and it will be discussed further by your TA. Now, we are still discussing assessment. So, these are the possible types of assessments that you may have as your formative and your summative assessment. So, some are quiz, seat work, reporting, demonstration, review, self-evaluation as a form of formative assessment. And summative assessment are more of a capper projects. They can be in a form of case study, a term paper, a performance, a video, a final video documentary. So it can be in various forms as well. And that will be detailed through your TA later on. Now, since we're talking of assessment, it's also vital to emphasize academic integrity. The most important measure of FEU students' uprightness is through the respect and adherence of academic integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing even if no one is looking at you, if no one is, behind you and constantly checking if you are doing it. But for you yourself, you're doing the right thing. That's one exemplary of being or of having integrity. And to be more specific, when we speak of academic integrity, we say yes to citation and we say no to plagiarism. So citation, mostly we used is APA 7. Currently, we are using APA 7. And in terms of plagiarism, the TAs and other members of the BLC cluster, we utilize Turnitin and Canvas. So please do not simply copy paste materials from the internet. It would be like a hodgepodge of different contents from different websites. Turnitin will provide similarity index. But aside from the internet, do not also be tempted to simply copy paste from your classmates' work, or also known as penging files. Please do not do that. It goes against, the very idea of academic integrity. And when you do something like that, when you plagiarize, when you cheat, when you copy, the first person that you are lying against, that you are committing a crime, is it's a crime to yourself. Yes, you got it the easy way, but you are taking the shortcut, and you are defeating the very purpose of education, which is for you to learn. So I hope you are understanding why we are emphasizing this idea, which is academic integrity. Most students are tempted to do this because of, it's an easy way out, and of course you want to have an assurance in terms of your grades. Now, since we are talking of grades, allow me to move on with the next slide, which is the grading system. So for GE courses, I'm sure you're familiar with this already. Formative assessments garner 70%, while 30% are given to the two summative assessments. So in GE courses, formative assessments, we have at least 8 formative assessment, and 4 are given before the midterm period, and the other 4 will be given after the midterm, which is before the finals. And then the summative assessments are in a periodic manner, which is through midterms and finals. All right? So, before we move on with the final period, right after your midterms, there is what we call as the grade consultation. So, grade consultation will be given after the midterms and after the finals. So, when we speak of midterm advisory marks, okay, these are consultative grades. So do not be disheartened if you did not get the grade that you are expecting, because midterm advisory marks are meant to be consultative, okay? These marks are intended to give the students an idea. I'm reading the gray part here. Students to give an idea of their progress, but do not necessarily represent 50% of the final mark. Okay, it depends on the weight given to the rest of the formative and summative assessments. All right. Now, one of the important thing to note here is in the yellow box. Students who are not meeting the QPA requirements at this point will be asked to attend intervention programs organized by the Guidance and Counseling Office. So the idea here is to wake up and for you to shape up in terms of your performance in this subject, specifically in this BLC course. So, the idea here, aside from the consultation periods, you are very much welcome to consult with your TAs, with your STs regarding your grade, even if it's not consultation period. So, you have to assert your right. You have to assert to ask the right questions. Of course, you will ask nicely. Alright, so that's the very idea of midterm advisory marks. When we talk about grades, here in FEU, we represent your grades through letter marks. But these letter marks have an equivalent in terms of numerical and quality point. And to elaborate further, we have the qualitative descriptors for your letter grades. So we have here A, it's equivalent to 92 to 100 numerical equivalent. If you got an A, it means you are as good as a teacher already. You have an exemplary awesome performance in that course, okay? And if you got B plus, so you have here 85 to 91, so high level but with minor points for improvement. And then we have the B and C plus. So take note of the numerical equivalent of B and C plus. They are equivalent to 71 to 84. In Philippine culture, most of our parents are used to with the idea that when you get a grade around 70, 75, we have this term which we call as palakol, or sometimes we term it as pasang-awa. However, I want you to deviate with that idea because in FEU, we have a different grading system. We follow a different standard. And in this case, the numerical equivalent of 71 and 84, which are letter marks of C plus and B. And if you will look at the grade descriptors, they are considered as above average and of course ample level. It means it's not failing, it's not pasang-awa. Furthermore, we have C and D plus. So C and D plus are sufficient level while D is somewhat low level. So if you want to be alarmed and if you get a D plus, that's the time that you need to be alarmed with the grade that you have. And then we have D and F. So these are the numerical and letter grades that we do not want to get at the end of the course. So F is of course a failing mark. So the passing is 50 and above. If you got below 50, that's considered as an F. So I think it's vital that you explain these to your parents. It's vital that your guardians, your parents, or to whoever you need to explain your grades to, it's vital that they understand these standards that we follow in FEU. Moving on with the next agenda of our discussion, which are certain class matters. Allow me to push forward unless you have questions and clarifications. So we now discuss policy on late submission. So this is a bit different this time. Allow me to read. As per the orders of the Academic Affairs Office and decision of GE Department and the BLC cluster, in order to instill academic discipline and develop work ethic among students, all assessments should be submitted on time. Here is the catch. Late submissions will not be accepted. As harsh as it sounds, but I hope you understand the idea behind this policy on late submissions. We want to instill professionalism upon you so that you know the idea and the value of time and the sanctity of the submission date. Moving forward, TA and subsection assignment. So the ST, which is me, will be assigning students to a subsection with corresponding TA. Students are not allowed to transfer to any subsections upon request. It will be, we will follow an alphabetical order of subsectioning. If you are attached to a certain classmate that you just met and you will ask and request for you to be transferred, I'm sorry, that will not be permitted. Students should not submit their work to other TAs and other subsection. This will not be credited. So you have to make sure that you know who your TA is and you know what subsection do you belong to. In the following days, we will be publishing the final list of the subsections and who are the assigned TAs for that specific subsection. Alright, so I hope that is clear among us in terms of policy for late submissions and subsectioning and TA assignment. Moving forward, with your course outline, the details, the topics, and the flow of the topics in our respective BLC class, it will be discussed by the TA. So I don't want to preempt the TA's job here. I will be endorsing you to your respective TAs in the coming weeks. So please keep yourself posted for announcement for future synchronous sessions. Now, speaking of synchronous sessions, here is a guideline how you can do Canvas single sign-on. It's a lot easier if you access it through Office 365, which is your FEU mail account. And then once you are already inside your FEU mail, you look at the upper left button. There are small boxes there. And then Canvas is one of the applications that's already embedded in your FEU mail. Alright? Now, for further support, aside from me, your supervising teacher, We have here the General Education Office. If you have concerns, you can email the General Education at feu.edu.ph email address. And so that you'll be familiar with the names of who are the part of the GE office, we have here the names from the director, Dr. Bravo, Mr. Oiseco as a coordinator, faculty assistant, Mr. Santander, and then our BLC head faculty is John Allen Burgenesi, and office staff, we have Ma'am Binyas. And other matters which include counseling, health, library, IT services, technical concerns. Here are the student support email directory. Thank you so much for listening for with this orientation. So I hope you are safe and you will hear updates from me in the coming days.